So we're going to just start this meeting. I know this is one of the most popular meetings of the year, I know from experience, because I'm an observer too, and it's always interesting to hear what other people have to say. We are Sue Phillips, who is the chair of the Observer Committee, has the flu. I'm sure this is the meeting she really looks forward to, but in the interest of her health and our health, she's not going to be here. So we'll just start off, and as you know, the observers who are here will come up as I call. Everyone has 5 minutes for their report except for the Urbana City Council and Urbana Board of Education, and they have 10 minutes. And so we're just going to start with the Champaign Library Board. So. Yes. You can sit right here, and the microphone is on.
Okay.
So be careful what you say.
Okay. Yes, I will especially be careful because Trish is on the board.
Yeah.
So she'll correct me if I say anything wrong.
And this is being broadcast live.
Oh my
It will
gosh.
be repeated at selected intervals. They don't have it scheduled yet, but you can always find that on the UPTV schedule. So,
Okay.
Natalie, take it away.
Okay. It's been another busy, exciting year for the Champaign Public Library. Due to an increase in the 2016 tax levy, driven by new developments and reassessments in the campus area, the library received more revenue. And during fiscal year 17-18, it was able to refill most of the positions that had been vacant, added some new positions due to a small reorganization, and on August 16th of 2017, reinstated part of the hours that were previously cut due to budget constraints. The library continued to offer a full schedule of programming for children of all ages, teens, and adults. There were also many special activities and events. The Sky's the Limit summer reading program, the NASA exhibit, a food truck rally, the solar eclipse viewing party, and almost 600 people participated in a life-sized Candyland game, to name just a few of the events. The United Way of Champaign County is providing funding to the library for a Mother Goose on the Loose initiative, which is an established program designed to increase reading and school readiness skills for young children. The foundation is going to help fund a Goosemobile vehicle for the project. In addition, the library hosted many speakers for both children and adults as part of their Great Authors at the Library series, as well as astronomer Phil Plait and astronaut Mike Foreman. There are after-school activities for middle school students 4 days a week at the main branch, and many special events and activities are possible because of the support from the Friends of the Champaign Library and the Champaign Public Library Foundation. And the library continues to host many other special events, such as concerts on Saturdays and Sundays, and speakers on various subjects of interest to the community. The Douglas branch hosted the annual Juneteenth celebration in partnership with the Champaign Park District and celebrated its 20th anniversary with a performance by the Jesse White Tumblers. The Douglas branch offers a tech program for kids after school during the school year, regularly hosts after-school activities for kids and teens, as well as special activities and events during the school year and the summer. Most of the programs are in collaboration with various departments at the University of Illinois. The library will be reworking several areas in the main branch in order to better meet the needs of today's users. The 5 study rooms have been outfitted with Mediascape furniture and technology. This includes D-shaped tables with built-in ports for various devices, dual monitors for display, new chairs, and wall cabinet marker boards. This expenditure was budgeted in the capital fund. The library is going to convert the computer room into a business center workspace for people who are developing their business or doing creative work. This is called the Launch Project. The city of Champaign is funding $75,000 of the cost, and the Library Foundation has directed $200,000 of gift money to go to this project. The foundation is also raising funds to rework the Early Learning Center and reconfiguring the teen space in the library. In addition, the checkout desk centerpiece of the first floor is being refreshed. In other news, the library installed a new telephone system and made an intergovernmental agreement with Unit 4 to provide library cards to students who do not live in an area served by a library. The cafe, which is now being run by the library, continues to show a profit. There were continuing book clubs both at the main branch and the Douglas branch, and a new book club for school-age children at the main library. A strategic planning committee has been formed to develop a 5-year strategic plan, and a 12-member committee is made up of various community members, trustees, foundation members, friends members, the library director, and the deputy director. And this is my 10th year as the board observer, and I consider it a wonderful experience and a privilege.
Thank you. It's nice to hear a good report because I'm on the library board.
Did I get everything right,
Yeah,
pretty much?
yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
All right. And Kara Finnegan, Champaign Park District.
Hi, everyone. The Champaign County Park District states that its mission is to enhance our community's quality of life through positive experiences in parks, recreation, and cultural arts. The board is governed by 5 elected members, and the Park District oversees 61 parks totaling more than 700 acres and has 14 facilities. The most prominent of those are the Douglas Community Center, the Leonard Recreation Center, and the Virginia Theater. During the last 9 months that I've been observing the board, they focused on a number of projects related to maintaining park facilities, including plans to renovate its operations facilities, and also a lot of ongoing work with the Virginia Theater, specifically discussions of a new roof and also much needed updates to its sound system. The Park District is also in various stages of planning on a number of park-related projects, including collaborating with Carl on walking paths at the new Carl at the Fields development out at I-57 and Curtis Road. And what's going to be called the Carl Community Trail will be a 10-foot wide trail around the 213-acre facility. Heritage Park is another project that is in the initial design phase, and that's a space that used to be a gravel pit. And that is a space that, when it's finished, will connect Dodds Park with Kaufman Park, if you're familiar with that area, just kind of out there by 72 and Parkland. And some of the design options are pretty cool for that. Glen Park, which is off of Mattis, south of Bradley, is where a stormwater control project is happening, and that's going to result in a park-like space that will have a gazebo and a waterfall and also native plantings. And if you've been by that project, it looks pretty busy, and the plan is for that to be done by the end of this year, I believe. In addition, other notable activities in the Park District include an agreement with the Illinois Football Club to provide lights at the Dodds Park soccer fields, and this is so that games can be played at night. And this agreement also involved changing the fee structure for renting the fields. The club, the Illinois Football Club, paid its 10-year lease fee up front. Essentially, they gave the Park District $176,000 as a donation, which the Park District will then use to pay for the lights. The board just approved the final contract with the Illinois Football Club at last week's meeting, and it seemed like there was a lot of back and forth about that, but that will be moving forward, I think, now pretty quickly. In September, the Park District and Human Kinetics announced that they're partnering to turn the park area currently currently called Human Kinetics Park on North Market Street into a $10 million community center that will, among other things, become home to the Don Moyer Boys and Girls Club. And the center is being seeded by a $4.4 million donation from the founder of Human Kinetics, Rainer Martins. and his spouse, with additional $2 million coming from the Park District, and then the rest is going to be pulled together from grants and private fundraising. There will also be playing fields and a walking trail, and they're projecting 2020 for that to be completed, and they've hired ratio architects, and they're providing initial designs on that. The Park District served more than 20,000 meals or snacks to kids participating in all of its day camps and community center programs this last summer. That's a pretty big number. I was pretty interested in seeing that number. We learned that they do this through partnering with Champaign Unit for Schools and also the CU Public Health District. And then some of this funding also comes from federal grant money that provides out-of-school meal funding for low-income kids in the community. And then finally, in September, I thought this was interesting. A faculty member from the University of Illinois Department of Recreation, Tourism, and Sport presented findings of a community survey on the Park District. And the survey revealed very high community satisfaction with facilities and events in the Park District. People especially like the Virginia Theater. But people also want more walking and wildlife and nature spaces in the community, and they also would like more access to water spaces and activities. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just, you want to leave it? The next is Housing Authority, Kathy Hatch.
Meetings for the Housing Authority are typically the fourth Thursdays at 3 p.m. if any of you are interested. There's usually a small group and plenty of seating. There are 34 low-income housing apartment complexes which contain 2,243 affordable apartments for rent. Approximately 1,253 have a set rent based on their income. The 717 are Section 8 subsidized. Fiscal year 2019, the federal projected budget is proposing an 18.3 reduction. They always have an auditor's report. Maletta and Company is the auditors for the Housing Authority. They gave a clean opinion. They also do some of the compliance issues that's required by the federal government. Sort of what the Housing Authority is up to, they've paid earnest money in Tolono for a property that they wish to develop. They're working on rezoning in Fisher. They've opened up the housing, the 18 units in Mahomet. 2018, the MTW, they're a move to work. They're only one of 39 MTWs in the country. The plan was approved. They have to redo it each year. Board members all receive tablets. They've had to update their computer systems. And part of that, under their interim director, was to go paperless. Some of their packets can be up to 80 and 90 pages when you pull it up online. I mean, they're going paperless. They're not printing them and distributing them. I thought that was kind of interesting. The board members did have a retreat to work on their long-term goals and what they were looking for in the new director, the new executive director. Steer Place, HUD had I think they've put it off for about 3 years, but HUD had a requirement that new flooring had to be done in the units, which caused certainly some angst among the residents because they were going to have to be relocated temporarily. They really were concerned about going back to the units that were their homes. Esther Pat was there, and she did a little speaking. The residents had asked her to voice some of their concerns. So one of their requests was if they could take 4 units in Steer Place as sort of the whole, where they would move into, so they wouldn't have to take everything out of their units, and then they would be able to go back to their actual units. And one of the interesting comments was, that was really of a concern to them because they said they know their neighbors and that's their home. They are still having a bed bug problem at Steer Place. Well, and I'm sure most of you have followed this in the newspaper. There has been Janice Mitchell, whose term was 2005 to 2016 and was appointed by the Urbana mayor, was not going to continue. So Danielle Chenoweth was appointed December 18th at the Urbana City Council. And there's controversy over her appointment. And they had a sort of a separate meeting January 30th where they approved a 5-year contract for the new executive director, whose name is David Northern, at a salary of 161. It said million, but they really meant 161,000. And she was not even told about the meeting, even though she had been appointed December 18th. In the February meeting, we did have a lot of people, and they actually seated her, but they've asked her not to vote yet. And the resolution of that is sitting with HUD's legal counsel. It was unclear to me if it's sitting with their legal counsel in Chicago or actually in D.C. So.
Well, thank you. At least they're doing better than the Vermilion County Housing Authority, which I understand the entire board resigned yesterday, so that'll be exciting times. Yeah, Deb.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
With all of this controversy, one of the problems was the housing authority did not have a website. And I had checked, I was trying to figure out who the board members were, and so I talked to the county, well, I wrote the county clerk. County clerk gets back and says, we can't access it either, and we don't know. And I just looked it up, the website's up, the new director is there, you can go to the meeting, you can get the full board package, right there. And it's such an upgrade, so you must have been doing a good job.
Well, except there's still a lot of, because I've actually gone through the whole thing, it's like, it's coming. You still actually, there's a lot of information you can't pull out, and, yeah.
But at least they're working on some more transparency, and that's good.
While the city of Urbana's mayor
Is pushing, yeah, yeah. Okay, Beth Chato, Champaign County Mental Health Board. Beth is doing double duty today and will be filling in for Claire Barkley on the Champaign County Forest Preserve after this. Okay, thank you, Beth.
Champaign County Mental Health Board has 9 members appointed by the Champaign County Board for 4-year terms. 1 member is also a member of the Champaign County Board, and I was that many years ago. That's why I got interested in observing them. They have 6 staff members. The executive director is Lynn Canfield. Board members are Susan Fowler, President Elaine Palencia, Vice President Tom Moore, Judy Miller, Julian Rappaport, Ann Robin, Margaret White, Joe Omno Osagi, and Kyle Peterson, who's the county board. They have 1 representative from the county board. They have a staff of 6. Director is Lynn Canfield. This is her 2nd year, so she's really new to the project. And Kim Bowdry, Mark Driscoll, Stephanie Howard Gallo, Sandra Somerville, and Chris Wilston. Their mission statement is the promotion of a local system of services for the prevention and treatment of mental, emotional, intellectual, or developmental and substance abuse disorders in accord with the assessed priorities of the citizens of Champaign County. They receive funding as part of the county property tax, and their basic task is how to distribute this funding by evaluating the applications that they receive and keeping track of the different agencies. They carefully evaluate programs seeking funds. In 2017, they received $4,415,651. They distributed $3,822,645 to social service agencies and $220,604 to support programs and community events. They work closely in collaboration with the Champaign County Developmental Board and the Developmental Disabilities Board, which has a separate tax fund also, but receives funding from the Mental Health Board, and they share the staff. The main challenge this year, as shared by the relatively new executive director, has to do with significant changes in the way they work. The board members wanted more involvement in the evaluation of services and to receive more information sooner. They now have, each board member has an agency that they actually coordinate with and consider primary and secondary reviewers of the applications for funds. The board is currently considering allocations of funds for next year. Several new interests focus on support and diversion of those in the criminal justice system. Examples of these are the Regional Plan Commission's Systems Diversion Services and the First Followers Peer Mentoring for Reentry. Decisions on agency requests for funds are currently underway and are scheduled to be decided by May 23rd. Meetings are always interesting and informative as the different funded agencies provide input on their activities and new programs are presented. There's often lively audience participation. I particularly was interested in hearing the presentation by the First Followers. By attending these meetings, I have learned more about the challenges of mental health issues in our community and community efforts to meet them. And I wanted to tell you about this Disability Resources Expo, which is coming up on Saturday, April the 7th at the Vineyard Church. And there are some flyers. I have some, and there's some I left on the back table.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to then proceed to the Champaign County Forest Preserve.
And this is from Claire Barkley, who was not able to make it here today. Champaign County Forest Preserve District has named Mary Ellen Wallner as new director of the district. Ms. Wallner, the first woman to serve as director, has served as grant writer and deputy director for the past 10 years, so she's not new. Another new staff appointment is golf pro David Sibistik, who was previously assistant golf pro until 2012. He succeeds Dave Hubner, who retired after 20 years at the Lake of the Woods. The district's newest project, an exciting one, is to have the Middle Fork Forest Preserve designated as a dark sky park. If the application, this is a federal application, and if it's successful, Middle Fork will be the first public site in Illinois to receive this designation. The district has already taken steps to reduce the amount of light that streams upward and will continue to modify the lighting according to a landscape management plan for the 1,700-acre preserve. In order to have necessary lighting in the campground, 1980s era lights that shine upward have been replaced with high-efficiency LED lights focused downward. The amount of light streaming upward greatly reduces the ability to see stars, is also harmful to wildlife, especially birds. Every year, an estimated 8.9 million to 1 billion birds are killed on their migratory paths due to artificial lighting, which throws them off kilter. Also, Middle Fork has been a destination for star watchers for several years. The Rails to Trails has added a third of a mile to take the trail to 7th Street in St. Joe. Vermilion County is adding 2.2 miles, which will extend the trail to Oakwood. The Champaign Cycle Club has arranged for several cycling events throughout the summer as funds supporting for the trail. Registration for a wide selection of summer camps and activities for children aged 3 to 17 started March 1st and is ongoing. The Museum of the Grand Prairie marks its 50th year with an exhibit featuring events of 1968, the first year of the museum. The temporary exhibit opens May 5th or 6th.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to leave any of the
Well, I gave you a copy already.
Okay, good. Champaign County Board of Health. And I think we have 2 watchers and 1 reporter. Huh?
She wrote the report, so.
Ann Smith. The Champaign County Board of Health meets 4 times a year at 5:30 at the CU Public Health District office. Sometimes they have additional meetings dealing with the budget. Board members are appointed by the county board, with 1 member being a representative of the board. Current members are Krista Jones, chair, Julie Kumar, vice chair, Dr. John Peterson, secretary-treasurer, and he has been a very faithful, long-time member. Bradley Clemens, county board member, David Thies, Dr. Dorothy Vera Weiss, David King and Kyle Fleming. The mission of the board is to promote health, prevent disease, and lessen the impact of illness through the effective use of community resources. It is funded through the Health Fund levy and federal, state, and local grants. They had a meeting last night and they announced that they had previously received a $70,000 grant for marketing, and another district did not want their money, so they were going to get that additional money, which is excellent. Since its inception, the board has contracted with the CU Public Health to provide core public health services to county residents. Julie Pride presents monthly administrative reports as well as their division reports on environmental health, infectious disease, maternal and child health, wellness and health promotion, and planning and research. These are all emailed to the members, and there's usually not much comment on these. The main health concerns this year are monitoring the opioid crisis, for which there have been 137 lives saved with the naloxone program, a significant increase in syphilis, which may be caused by better detection methods, and the use of e-cigarettes. Data is being gathered to encourage the villages in the county to pass ordinances prohibiting their use in public areas. The budget request from Smile Healthy and the Central Illinois Dental Education Services was approved. This serves about 1,000 children throughout the county. A new schedule of fees for environmental health programs was approved by the board. The board felt the need to bring the fees into line with the actual costs of the inspections and yet not place a burden on the individuals and businesses involved. However, the new schedule of fees was rejected by the county board, who felt they were too high. The health board are considering several options, including phasing in the increases over a 5-year period. The ever-present concerns over restaurant inspections have ignited once again and were highlighted by a News Gazette article titled "A Food Fight's Brewing." Restaurant inspection changes will be in effect soon due to a new food code adopted in Illinois last year. Changes include a new, more detailed inspection form and more emphasis on the kinds of violations that can cause foodborne illnesses, including new management and employee reporting responsibilities regarding employee illnesses. The department has held 20 open houses this year, some of them in Spanish, and they've been meeting one-on-one with hundreds of restaurants in CU and the county. And the changes are due to go into effect in July or at the start of 2019. Given the restraints of a less than generous budget, it does a very satisfactory job of providing basic health service to the county residents. Meetings are well attended, efficiently conducted, and members are well informed. And last night, Julie gave out these community health improvement plans. I don't know whether you've seen them, but they're really interesting. And they're put out by Carl, Public Health, United Way, and OSF. So since they're really new, I brought 4, and I'll pass them around if you'd like to see them.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Okay, let's see. Now we have Regional Planning Commission. Hey, hi. Nancy Morse.
The regular meeting of the Champaign Regional Plan Commission is the 4th and sometimes the 3rd Friday of the month on meetings when there's sufficient business. So it's on an infrequent basis. I'll tell you at the end how you can find these things out. They meet in the John Dimmick Conference Room in the RPC offices, which are at the Brookins Center. Current members of the Regional Plan Commission, and they're all appointed by reason of either the office they hold or their position in the community. The chair of the board rotates on a yearly basis. Currently, it's Pius Weibel, and he represents the Champaign County Board. Charles Smith is the vice chair, and he's from the village of Rantoul. Patricia Avery, representing City of Champaign. Patrick Brown, Village of Mahomet. Deb Frank Finan, City of Champaign. Tammy Fruling-Vosges, Village of St. Joe. Richard Helton, Village Manager of Savoy. Diane Marlin, City of Urbana. Jim McGuire, Champaign County Board. Rebecca Motley, Community Representative. Dennis Roberts, City of Urbana. Whoops, my typing error. Oh, it is Dennis Roberts, he's new. Steve Summers, Champaign County Board, and Katina Wilshire, community members. Things that have changed since last year are there now are 2 community members. And when there's a Republican and a Democrat representing the Champaign County Board. And those are both new. The longest standing member, the person who's been on the board the longest is Deb Finan from Champaign, both as a city council person and now as mayor. The CEO is Dalitso Sulamoyo, who is new. He replaced John Dimmitt, who had been there for years. Dalitso's background is in community action agencies from Springfield, and he's originally from Malawi. Elizabeth Murphy is the chief operating officer. She also acted as the interim CEO when they were searching for the current director. She gives the most important to the members' reports each month, talking mainly about the bills that have come up and the bills that were paid and anything that's unusual in the finances. The commission members appear familiar with the materials in the meeting packets and routine business: approval of minutes, financial reports, approval of bills to be paid, approval of executive reports and contracts moves quickly. There is more active discussion about non-routine matters. A couple of highlights. The RPC's budget is around $20 million. Each member, each town or village that's a member of the RPC pays membership dues based on their population. And that generates about $140,000 a year, which is less than 1% of the total budget. So most of their money comes from grants. And they're a funding locus for lots of grants: federal, state, local, private. The RPC also provides services for governmental units in Illinois, I think just Illinois, that are outside of their service region, and they charge for that. And so that's also a source of income. They suffered the same fate that lots of places had when we had no budget, and the state is slowly making up most of that lost money. I wanted to highlight one of the newer funds, which is the Workforce Development Fund, which is a separate sort of agency that now is under the wing of RPC, acting, I'm sure, as fiscal managers. And that's an interest. So then the RPC members get reports about what's going on with the workforce development. And what's new and quite new is a grant that they got from the Department of Agriculture, federal, for training workers for entry-level and mid-level careers. And it's a joint grant with Carl and with a grant. And it will do skills as for job skills, but also behavioral and personal skills. So that's new, and it's a one-year pilot project.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we have the Mass Transit District, Deb Rugg. Take it away. That was a transit joke.
I know. And we'll all laugh later. This is my second year of observing this group. The board and the CUMTD staff, led by ED Carl Gannett, have been meeting now for a year at the Champaign City Building, which allows it to be filmed and rebroadcast on the Champaign Government Channel. Previous years were all in the terminal building, open to the public, but, like most boards, not viewed by many public. Occasionally, there is a person or two taking advantage of the audience participation section. Usually, these are members of the writing public with questions or issues specific to their stops or destinations. Tom Kasich from the News Gazette and I are usually the only audience, and we do not participate. The current board members are Linda Bauer, Bradley Dial, re-elected as board chair again this year, Margaret Chaplin, vice chair, Matthew Cho, Bruce Hannon, Jim Farron, and through 2017, Don Utman. With the end of Utman's second term and mandatory close for him, Dick Barnes was appointed to fill that spot. The 7 board members are appointed by the Champaign County Board Chair, and no party can have more than 4 of the 7. These are very tightly run meetings with all materials distributed to the board by a week prior. Their website provides a way to quickly get upcoming agenda or whole board packet to print as I wish to, and the earlier ones remain on the site too. Also at the annual meeting in January, the secretary to the board and the treasurer, Jack Waller and Brenda Eilbrecht, respectively, were reappointed. Every meeting, Jim Farron, and usually joined by Matt Cho, brings up some issue relating to declining ridership. Also, Farron asked some questions that clarified the usual mysteries as the board determines the tax rate under tax caps and has to determine the black box ad required of all government entities. This was extremely helpful to the watching public. I think more boards and board members could be helpful to the public if they clarified some of the annual rituals that are so important and get to be humdrum to the board, but the taxpayers should know. MCOR continues to impact readership. It started up again the first week in March. Not readership, ridership. It impacts ridership. It started up again the first week in March. When there is not the active construction, ridership goes up. As I mentioned in my report last year, ridership is a very tricky issue. MTD continues to expand its area as the communities of Champaign, Urbana, and Savoy expand. And of particular note, Carl moving west of I-57, though there were also some early expansion out there due to apartment buildings going up. The 3 hearings for those expansions, for the apartments and stuff, that had no participation. 3 hearings, nobody came. Also impacting on the ridership is the success of the CUMTD and community to encourage infill, walking, and biking. So the CUMTD encourages activities which decrease ridership in the high-density areas, but the Chambana Savoy continues to spread increasing needed coverage for riders. Low-density infill, non-infill. The board members all seem to have read their materials and have on-target questions about current agenda items, and in some cases bringing up past goals relevant to an agenda item to determine progress made, such as energy efficiency of buses or facilities. One of the many neat things about being a league observer is to find out not only what's going on currently, but also as groups report future planning, you have an idea what might happen such as an upcoming TIF designation. One that I found particularly interesting is the Groteluchin proposal for a redevelopment of the area south of the terminal, which involves MTD, City of Champaign, and the U of I AD. In July, it was embraced by the City of Champaign as a planned growth with living quarters, open space, new recreational activities, bringing more people into Champaign as residents and as paying customers. Fox Development also put forth a plan for the ice rink as part of the Research Park area. It was back in the news last month with both planning groups citing the benefits particular to its plan. Fortunately, the state of Illinois got a budget. Before that, making sure that a line of credit was available took up much time of the staff and then with the board over several months, things that had nothing to do with the core issues of providing mass transit. The board also works with contracts for school busing, rural transit, temporary plans for passengers waiting in extreme cold. For example, the MTD brought in a bus to be there warm for the passengers waiting for transfer. And, stay tuned, next year, some hydrogen-fueled buses will be added, not to the board, but to CUMTD.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, the Urbana City Council. Barbara Schlichter. As we enjoy their hospitality in the Urbana City Council chambers here.
I have my 2 copies for you.
Okay, thank you.
I hope I have 2. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so if I start sneezing, I'm sorry.
So you might need to
Pull it
move
up.
that a little further if you're,
Sure.
if you're
Okay.
low voiced. Okay.
Okay. As you mentioned, I'm Barbara Schleicher, and I'm one of the 2 observers for the Urbana City Council. I observe on the first and second Mondays of the month. So there may be some things that, excuse me, that you may not hear from me, although I'm only hitting the highlights because we could be here for another hour if I were to go through all the zoning changes and planning changes, et cetera. So I'll start out with the City Council members and staff. Of the 9 potential people who were involved with the City Council of Urbana, there are 5 new people in position, or 5 new positions. One of them, since last April, is the new mayor, Diane Marlin. In District 1, they call it District, is Mary Alice Wu. She replaced Charles Smith. Eric Jacobson, same. Aaron Ammons, same. Bill Brown, same. Dennis P. Roberts is the same. Dean Hazen is new. And Jared T. Miller is also new. And Charles Smith is now the new city clerk. As you can see his name over there. The new city administrator, they're in the process of hiring. I think as of yesterday, they were finishing up the interviews of the 4 finalists. Apparently there was 68 candidates throughout the United States that came to interview or apply for the job of city administrator. There will be a public candidate forum on March 28th regarding the person they're going to select, is my understanding. Also, this is dealing with administrative things. The state of Illinois has required that all municipalities develop a sexual harassment policy, but the city of Urbana has been on top of it, although they need to review the legal department and human resources as reviewing the existing sexual harassment policy and coordinating with the state requirements. Excuse me. In the finance department, I've broken down the information in the highlights and by department. So, the finance department, the budget for July 1st of 2017 to June 30th of 2018 was approved at $45.9 million. This budget is entitled "A Foundation for the Future." Thought it was interesting that the budget had a title. But the reason was the city council and members, staff members, and residents are looking at a 5-year plan for 2023 because of constraints on the funding sources. Reason for constraints or decreases: one is a decrease in the amount of sales tax. The tax base needs to be increased. There needs to be a growth in the tax base. It needs to be in the diversity of funding sources. They're looking at a potential of $500,000 shortfall in these budget years. There's been an increase in pension costs, and also there's a decrease in the state shared revenue. I believe shortly the city council and mayor and staff, interested parties, as well as residents, will be involved in workshops to brainstorm on these shortfalls and potential funding sources. Community Development and Economic Development Department. If you're not familiar with the Think Urbana program, Generally, this program involves, in selected growth areas, an owner is responsible for half, would be, if you decide to buy into this area, you would be only responsible for half the property tax for the first 5 years of ownership. If you haven't seen, I know that, is it First Federal on, I think it's First Federal, on Main Street in Urbana, they have lawn signs, and I think several of the banking institutions are involved in this program. Also, that if you build in Urbana in these select areas, there will be no sales tax for a prospective owner building in these areas. An example of some of the areas that are involved would be Behringer Commons, if you're familiar with that. That's on the Route 150, excuse me, west of Philo Road, just west of Aldi's. Also, the annual action plan for 2018-2019. This has been in development with the City of Urbana and the Home Consortium, which are cities of Urbana, Champaign, Champaign County, and the Champaign Regional Plan Commission. This plan is coordinates the redevelopment of the area, specifically in Urbana. There was an increase in rental units. The development, particularly I'm talking about, is the Highland Green, which is on East Kerr Avenue, created 33 new rental units, and these involve both single-family and duplex units. The land was donated by the City of Urbana. In the same vein with community development, it's good to hear that they're going to have the Sweet Corn Festival again, the Folk and Roots Festival, Pygmalion Festival, and of course our favorite, the Farmers Market, Holiday Market, and Indoor Market. Public safety, there's a new police chief, if you haven't met her yet. Her name is Sylvia Morgan. She is a 24-year veteran of the excuse me, Urbana Police Department. And also in the at the council meeting in early part of 2008, the police chief went over some of the remedies for possession of cannabis. I won't go into that. But anyway, they have, in cooperation with the state, they've looked at how much of the cannabis material, if you're caught with, and what type of infraction that would be. Public Works, they have been reviewing the sewer lateral pavement reimbursement program, an exciting program. However, if you do have a problem with your sewer lateral, it is a very nice thing to have, because you would be basically a maximum reimbursement of $5,000, and that's for the pavement repair. One thing that they emphasized was that if you're having a problem with your sewer lateral, be sure to contact the city, because they can explain all of this information for you. Also, you may have gotten cards in the mail from the American Water Utility about having an insurance program for your sewer. And the city can also explain more information if you haven't already participated in that, or contact American Water. The city's municipal electric aggregate program has seen a reduction in the unit energy charge to the citizens. One of the exciting things for me, and I think for all of you, is that they are now increasing their percentage of clean energy, which is the solar and wind percentage that the unit costs. In other words, we're doing more clean energy if you participate in that particular program. The mayor has also signed a support for I Matter Youth Movement, which is a U of I student movement regarding energy conservation, and Urbana is in strong support of that. Going down to MCOR, we talked a little bit about MCOR. It started up March 5th. If you've tried to go down Green Street going west, you've run into big chain link fences. And that's because they're recoring the north side of the street of Green Street between Lincoln and Goodwin. And they will be recoring, which means they dig down to the rock, they call it the the gravel bed, and we'll be replacing it, replacing curbing, improvement on the bicycle path, benches and bus shelters. And Carl Foundation hospital issue. Apparently, just recently, the judge has required Carl to provide, 30 seconds, I can get it in. A county judge has required that the Carl Foundation Hospital provide necessary financial documents that have been requested by the very governmental units that are involved in this particular issue. And I won't go into Cunningham Township because I never knew if that was part of my responsibilities, but I sit through the meetings. If you want any additional specific information, the city and their website has all the agendas and minutes are archived, very interesting and helpful. And also, the city council meetings are replayed, and those times and dates are also on the city's website. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That's a lot of work, watching this city council meeting.
Boy, you're not kidding. Always enjoyable.
Yes. And Grace, the Urbana Board of Education. Grace has 10 minutes. Carolyn, if you need to leave, then just bring that up there and drop it off with me. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The Urbana School Board meets at 7:30 on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except July. All 7 board members are very faithful in their attendance, and they come to the meetings prepared to discuss the issues. 5 of the board members were up for re-election last spring and ran unopposed. They were sworn in early May of 2017. The job of board member is time-consuming and thankless, so there seems to be little interest in vying for seats on the board. The meetings are available on the city's cable channel, UPTV, and on the district's website via YouTube. The News Gazette often has a reporter at the meetings, though lately I have noticed that while the coverage is accurate, it is not always complete. For example, at the February 20th meeting, there was a presentation by the superintendent and the high school principal on the school resource officer program at the high school, after which 2 board members questioned the continued use of resource officers. The superintendent seemed very surprised at this response, but this whole discussion was not even given mention in the News Gazette's article that covered that meeting. The district is still trying to sell the former Washington School on North Broadway and has petitioned for a zoning change to attract potential buyers. The sale of the building, which was announced last year, fell through when the potential to get federal housing credits changed as a result of the 2016 election. The largest renovation currently underway is at Yankee Ridge Elementary School, where the district will be spending about $12 million to add 8 new classrooms and a gymnasium, as well as renovate the existing building. Completion of the project is planned for this fall and will be using funds generated by the 1-cent countywide sales tax. The board spent time developing priorities for land use, including possible sites for an elementary school north of I-74. This is a long time in the future. In February, the board agreed to hire a consultant to conduct a study of space use at the middle school and high school campus, including traffic flow around the area. School staffing got much attention this year, most recently when the administration announced a plan to eliminate the 3 certified deans at each of the 2 secondary schools and replace them with 6 uncertified staff at each school. This was part of a plan to restructure the way discipline is handled at the secondary level. The faculty was blindsided by the announcement and felt that they should have been consulted. They crowded into the board meeting on March 6th and again on March 13th to voice their concerns. Many administrative positions changed this year. There is a new assistant superintendent, a new director of facilities services, 2 new principals, a new director of student services, and a new director of elementary bilingual and multicultural programs. Other administrative changes included an interim director of adult education, a job description change for the director of equity and secondary bilingual programs, a new director of family engagement and student support, a new director of curriculum and instruction, a new high school associate principal, and a new associate principal at the middle school, as well as a new development and finance coordinator for adult education. In my opinion, it seems a bit top-heavy, but enrollment is up this year, and perhaps the administrative positions are really needed. There was much discussion about the creation of an assistant principal position to be shared between Leo and Yankee Ridge schools. Board members asked why they had not heard of the need during the budgeting discussion, and why had the job been offered to a candidate before the board was consulted. The board felt they should have been told before the job was posted. School administrators were relieved that legislators were able to override the governor's veto of the education funding reform bill in late August. The measure increases funding for school districts and distributes the money in a way that is certainly more equitable. But it also provides $75 million for tax credits for people who donate to private school scholarships, so that part of the bill has been criticized because of so much money being diverted from public education. Carol Baker, the chief financial officer for the district, reported in early September that the state owed the district over $6 million at that point. To me, it is amazing that the district has been able to function as well as it has. One positive note is that the district's bond rating has been raised to AA-, the highest it has been in 20 years. The budget for fiscal year 2018 was passed on September 19th for around $50 million. At the end of each meeting, the superintendent and the board are given a few minutes to report on items that were not covered in the agenda. At the March 6th meeting, Superintendent Owen discussed his dilemma concerning whether to allow staff to participate in the planned student walkout for March 14th in memory of the students and staff who were killed at the school shooting in Parkland, Florida. He said that staff members are banned by law in taking part in political action while on duty. So while he did not view this particular walkout to be political, others might see it as such. Dr. Owen asked the board's advice on what to do. One board member, Brenda Carter, definitely thought the walkout would be a political action. However, the others thought that there is a difference between advocacy and political action. So last Wednesday at 10 a.m., the staff was allowed to participate in the walkout and was expected to help keep order as they did so. Board members did express concern about the risk of entering into a slippery slope by allowing this particular action. Much of the board's work is routine in nature. They approve contracts for school lunches, for busing, for insurance, for purchasing items and selling used items, They receive commendations and recognitions and gifts. They hear many reports, and they approve personnel changes. The reports can be dull, but one in December on the school-based health clinic was especially interesting and informative to me.
Thank you, Grace. Okay, we've got just one report left, and that's mine. So that's 5 minutes for the Urbana Champaign Sanitary District. And I want to recognize we have a sanitary district trustee in the audience, too, as a league member. So UCSD is a 3-member board, and it's appointed by the county board. In June, a new member was appointed, Ladell Myrick, and 2 continuing members are Jenny Putman and Jerry Lake. Ms. Putman put the other 2 members on notice that she would continue to raise the issue of the appropriateness of the salary of board members at $6,000 a year. And this is way out of line for what other officials in the county are making. School board members, for instance, do their job without pay at all. And former Champaign Mayor Dan McCullum appeared at one meeting to continue to raise that issue of appropriateness of salary, and also the appointment of the trustees by the county as opposed to the cities, where the vast majority of their business is involved, and the partisan nature of the appointments as opposed to nonpartisan nature of the work, really. And all of those are ongoing issues that will probably not be going away. UCSD handles the sanitary sewer system in Champaign and Urbana and its environs, and is extremely professionally well managed. And the district had some financial issues as a result of the 2009 financial crash, because much of their revenue for expanding the system comes from development, and development essentially came to a total standstill as a result of the financial crash. But they made their adjustments, and they're basically back in normalized funding, and development appears to also be picking up some and providing at least a steady stream of money payment for the loans for the expansion of the system, which are made by the EPA. So if there are any members of the public at a meeting, which is pretty rare, their concerns are very thoroughly considered by the board, and they have redesigned their website to be more informative, and have expanded and clarified their public participation rules in order to be welcoming to the public and any of the concerns it's had. Generally, the board considers technical issues concerning plant maintenance, expansion plans, and any unplanned discharges, like the 6 inches of rain in February caused some problems, but things were better controlled because of past efforts that they had made in order to anticipate and manage those events. The executive director spends some time each meeting on educating the board and the public, which is me, on technical issues and the problems of either phosphorus discharges or the district's energy use and the ways to reduce it, or just things that are happening in the sanitary sewer world. So the board is very knowledgeable about the operations of the district, and it's a very informative and interesting meeting. So I think it's one of those boards that the League Observer Program provides as a benefit to the observer, who expands their knowledge of what the public bodies in the county are doing, as well as providing a benefit to the board of having public listening, if not participating. So this is our observer meeting. I'm glad you all came, and I'm glad you're all observers. Sue, I know, is very regretful for having missed it, but hopefully we'll continue on for the next year and more observing. Thank you. Oh, wait, yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
I have a question about the compensation paid to the 3 members of the Urbana Champaign
sanitary district, of which I am one.
Mm-hmm.
It has been expressed by the executive director who favors the high compensation of $6,000 a year for, we meet once a month. If there's an extra budget meeting in the spring, we might have an additional.
Do you want,
meeting
you know,
on
Jenny,
the
you want to come up and attend the microphone and?
It has been expressed, not by just the executive director, but by others, that because our business concerns the content of what we flush down the toilet, sewage, muck, mire, an occasional excursion when the effluent goes where it shouldn't be, and we all care about that. We want the effluent to be clean when it's returned to nourish the water systems, the watershed of Central Illinois. But because the work is distasteful, the compensation paid to the trustees must be high to attract persons to serve. And if that we were paid something like what city council or county board members receive, something on, say, a per diem of $50 or $60 per meeting, that no one would be willing to serve. And I disagree with that. If we were at meetings getting down like the operators and sludging, dealing with the sludge, putting on they wear, you know, appropriate work clothes. This is hard work. This is really hard work. We don't do the hard work. We sit at a table and there's black print on white paper and we read reports. And this probably wasn't authorized as part of today's meeting, but when I again ask my colleagues to consider not paying ourselves the highest that state statute allows, I would like you to know that I'm going to make this request of my colleagues again. I felt it unfair to ask the new trustee, Liddell Merrick, to make this decision at his very first meeting, but I intend to bring this up again.
Yeah. And, you know, going to the UCSD meetings is very interesting and not dirty.
But you can smell, some days you smell
yeah,
the content of what's going through the tanks.
But when you know, as an observer, I observed the Champaign School Board at one point. And if you were to balance the amount of effort it takes to be a school board member versus the amount of effort it takes to be a UCSD trustee, I mean, they're not in the same universe.
She who proposes reducing the compensation is not popular, and
Okay.
I defer my compensation to the Urbana Parks Foundation.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny.
Thank you for support that may be forthcoming in the future when the subject comes up.
Okay.
And I've trod on a territory I shouldn't have been.
Yeah, no, that's
Taking
fine,
over
that's fine. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anything else? Okay, we're adjourned.